So good morning, everybody. Good morning, Facebook. Today in the series of lectures about playing, what about toys? So it's kind of the effects of choosing the right or wrong toy. There's so many toys on the market that picking a toy can either positively influence your relationship and engagement with your dog, or in some cases actually completely destroy it. Toys are, there's a big variety of toys that will inhibit and reinforce certain innate behaviors, and that can, in some cases, help you get rid of some certain behaviors. So today a deep dive into the various toys and why you should choose one toy over the other. One prerequisite for this lecture is that you've watched the previous lectures on playing. Should I play tug of war with the dog? And then also look at the lecture, train the dog you have, and forget the dog you want. Those two are absolutely necessary to have viewed in order to completely understand what's going to be discussed in this lecture. So in summary, what we've looked at in the last two lectures is we looked at innate traits, innate behaviors of the dog. We looked at all the antecedents, and we looked at all the genetic components that will influence what our dog likes and how our dog behaves. So playing or interacting with toys is also an innate response. One of the things that I like to do when I have my puppy, when my puppy is 5, 6, 7 weeks old, is I literally toss a couple toys on the ground, and I'm going to see which toy my puppy interacts with and what does the puppy do. Does he bite it? Does he carry it? Does he chase it? Does he trash it? Does he chew it? Is he überhaupt interested in the toy? Because some dogs, you can toss, for instance, this is one of the bigger tug toys. You can toss this on the ground, and the likelihood that a 5-year-old puppy is going to interact with this is probably zero, unless you have an incredible bite-drivey puppy that is going to try to get this in his mouth and maybe destroy it. Most dogs might look at it and say, "Hup, there's nothing I can do with this." Where on the other hand, if I would throw something fluffy on the ground, then a puppy might actually be interested in it because it's soft. He can put his teeth on it. It's very satisfying to put his jaws on it. Where others, again, that have zero bite inhibition, might look at it, sniffing it, and they say, "Yep, it's not for me. I don't know what to do with it." So for me, to see what kind of innate response I have, and to kind of investigate how my dog is going to play and interact with a toy, I literally toss a couple toys on the ground. One of the toys that I always throw on the ground is a ball. And the reason why I toss a ball on the ground is to see if the dog is going to chase it, if the dog is going to bring it back, if the dog is going to run away with it, if the dog is starting to chomp on it and get kind of this chew satisfaction, or if the dog is going to run to the ball, stare at it, and then wait for the ball to move. Again, that is going to, give me a lot of information. Yeah. So, what dog would, if you toss the ball and the ball, stops moving, and then the dog starts looking at it, what type of dog will stare at the ball? What does that say to you? That's probably a hunter. He's a pointer. He's like, "Haha, this bitch ain't moving anymore. I'm going to wait until it moves, and then what he's going to do is going to go for it and try to kill it. Yeah? So it's a dog with instinctual prey drive, instinctual hunting drive. You know, it's a dog that you know, a lot of pointers, a lot of hunting dogs will do that. You know, and then you have the dog that, you know, toss the ball and it moves and it starts interacting it with its nose, and it starts moving, and then the dog is surprised and then starts chasing it, and now, you know, he's tossing the ball all over the place. You know, that's a dog that does what? Likes to interact with his paws. Yeah? So not so much with his mouth. He's like tossing it around, and I said, well, I like chasing stuff. I like moving stuff with his with my paws. And then if the dog starts stomping the toy constantly, what does that say? Oh, that's probably a dominant little fucker. Yeah, because he's literally trying to possess it. He's trying to dominate it. He's gonna start staying on top of the toy. And then if I have the same ball and I toss it and it moves around and the dog goes absolutely bananas for it, and he chases it and then he grabs it and then he starts shaking it and then he releases it out of his mouth, and he starts the ball starts rolling again, and he starts chasing it again, he bites it and he trashes it. What does that mean? Well, that's a really drivey, prey-drivey dog that also has a lot of, you know, instinctual trashing behavior. Yeah, if you want to have a hunting dog that carries a duck loosely in his mouth, that's probably not the right dog for you to take, because that dog, if he finds the duck, is going to, you know, chase it, trash it, take it into pieces, and bring a couple feathers back instead of the whole duck. Yeah, so by doing these tests, we can, you know, we can start seeing a lot of the innate interactions with the, you know, with the toy, and eventually with us. For instance, if the dog is, you toss the ball, the dog chases it, he actually grabs it pretty calm and comes trotting back to you calmly, and, you know, tries to interact with you. What does that mean? Well, if you're in the sport of Schutzhund, or IPO or IGP, you're probably going to score high on your retrieve scores, because this dog naturally likes to retrieve. You know, so if you're interested in a sport that includes retrieving, that's probably the puppy that you should take. It's also a puppy that is interesting in playing with you and is not as possessive. You know, if you would, you know, choose the litter, here you go, you toss the ball, and here's the pup that, you know, grabs the ball, trashes it, runs away from you, you approach it, and then the dog starts stalking you a little bit, there's a little bit of play growling. Well, that's probably, if you're a first-time dog owner that wants to do dog sports, that's probably not the pup for you, because that dog is already telling you that in the future you're going to have a lot of challenges with his innate response. And that is, I'm going to chase the ball, I'm going to possess it, and I'm going to challenge you with it because I'm a little dominant motherfucker. Where, on the other hand, if you have the dog that chases the ball, picks it up, and then comes calmly comes back with the ball and drops it in front of you, well, that's probably the dog that says, I just want to interact with you, and you're not going to have a lot of problems with possessiveness instead, etc. So depending on what you do, that might be the dog for you. So interaction with these toys is going to give you so much information about, again, the innate behaviors. So for me, the tests that I like to do with these young pups is, I'll toss a ball, I toss something fluffy, and then I'll toss something big, and I'll maybe sometimes toss something heavy. And then if the pup is trying to, no matter what it costs, tries to interact with something heavy, what does that tell you about the puppy? Well, he's a little consistent motherfucker. He does not give up. If he wants something, he's going to get it. If you're a first-time dog owner, that might not be the right pup for you then. Because if that dog gets something in his head, then you know, there might be some challenges. So all these things, all these interactions is important. So when we are dealing with our dogs in our daily lives, you know, those innate interactions, so if you have not done these tests, you know, at 5, 6 weeks old, those behaviors will eventually come to the surface when you start interacting with toys and when you start interacting, you know, in games with the dogs. You know, for instance, if for whatever reason, you know, you have a tug toy, and you know, I couldn't find my small tug toy, but you know, if you have a small tug toy and you start playing tug with the dog, and the dog starts viciously growling and biting and trashing and pulling on the tug toy, and the dog also has a little problem because, you know, you have been feeding the dog out of one of these, and then, you know, the dog starts guarding the food bowl a little bit, and then whenever he has something in your house, he starts guarding that too. Well, probably playing tug of war with this particular dog with something this big is not the best game for you to play, because what we're doing is we're, you know, kind of reinforcing some of the innate possessiveness, some of the innate ranking behaviors, because tug of war in most cases is perceived as a ranking behavior. So if your dog in your daily life presents a lot of challenges with possessiveness, with ranking, then playing tug of war is probably not the right thing for you to do. So choosing these toys is very, very difficult. So my goal when I play with dogs is always to provide fun, provide motivation. So games should be fun. And fun means for me no conflict. And that is important. So whenever we start interacting with a toy, it can maybe chasing the ball and possessing the ball is really fun. But then if I start, you know, interacting with the toy and that leads to conflict, you know, that's actually no fun. Yeah, so for me, any game that I try to do, any interaction that I have with a toy should always be fun without conflict. And also, you know, that fun is both ways, you know, both for the dog, you know, and the human. And the reason why I do it this way is, you know, it's most of the interactions with the dogs are fun, and it's the human that actually introduces conflict. Yeah. So any of the toys, again, if you watched my my game, should I play tug of war with the dog, and you know, train the dog you have, forget the dog you want. In those two videos, I talked a little bit about playing as well, and that it eventually should be object independent. Yeah, it should be object independent. That is our goal. So toy independent, and then able to play fun games with a dog without conflict. To get there, you know, we have, last week we have watched, you know, rules and engagement of the game, but one of the most contributing factors in that is the introduction of proper toys. These toys, for instance, are very popular. It's a Chuck-It. I love the Chuck-It balls, especially for young puppies for 5, 6 weeks old, because I can interact with them. They move, they bounce, they go everywhere. There's a lot of movement in them. So for puppies that, you know, are, I would say, medium prey drive, this is an incredible good toy because it can stimulate them to come out of their shell a little bit. It can stimulate some prey drive, and they have a lot of fun together. The downside, the downside of these chuck-up balls is the same thing. They move fast, so the dog has hardly any control over it. We have hardly any control over it. Once the dog gets it in his mouth, and he's a very possessive dog, then he squeezes the ball like this, and then it's very hard for us to grab the ball without causing conflict, without maybe we need to poke it out of his mouth. So possessive dogs, dogs that are very high in drive, might be overstimulated with playing with a ball like this. Look at Bandit. Yeah, Bandit is a dog that, I played with him yesterday for the first time. A loose ball brings him over the top. He kind of loses control. Where if I would introduce another ball, it's the same ball, but it's got a string on it. You see the difference? This ball is still rolling, the loose ball. Well, the ball on the string just stopped. And that is a nice thing about balls on a string, is if I toss those, they don't move so much. So they don't stimulate extra prey drive. So I need to be very careful in, when I use this ball. If I use this ball with a dog that has hardly any prey drive, then I toss it, it falls in the grass and it doesn't run, doesn't move anymore. The dog says, yeah, it's a fucking boring ball. Or I give this one a good chuck it, and then this ball keeps rolling, keeps running. It's like the dog is constantly teased because the ball keeps running away from it, and he needs to keep chasing it. So for a dog that is medium drived and medium motivated to chase a ball, these type of balls are amazing. If I would play chuck it with Popsy, for instance, who has incredibly amount of prey drive, that might not be a good idea. If I would have done that as a puppy, I would have made a maniac out of it. So, with my young puppy, I played with these balls. So the choice of balls is incredibly important. Then we have, I don't have regular tennis balls, but then we have tennis balls as well. And people have asked me a question, hey, should I use tennis balls to play because it's a ball? And my answer is no. Yeah, my answer is never play with a tennis ball. And the reason why it's not because it's any different than these plastic balls in the use. However, the tennis balls, when we start using these, they are very toxic for dogs. The glue that is used to keep these two halves together will, in combination with saliva, cause a caustic cocktail that will damage the enamel of the dog. And I can see when I look at your dog's teeth, when it's either 1 year or 2 years old, and the dog starts having tartar already on the teeth, it's probably because you played with tennis balls from a young age and the enamel is damaged. So these dogs tend to have more tartar because of the early damage of. So I have some online questions.
From Chappie, can conflict be totally eliminated from dog training, or will conflict always come at some point, meaning teaching a behavior?
So Chappie asked me if conflict can be completely eliminated out of dog training, or will conflict always be part of it when teaching a new behavior. I think it's our goal to eliminate as much conflict as possible, but I sincerely believe that when we interact between different species, that there's always going to be some form of conflict. I have a lot of conflict in my game when I play with my dogs. Conflict that, for the naked eye or for the untrained eye is probably not even witnessable, because when people look at my game, it's something that they admire and inspire to do, because my game looks really good. However, I have a ton of conflict in my game as well. I think conflict should be avoided, but is almost unavoidable. I think it is our responsibility, however, as dog owners, to always push for the maximum what we can do to avoid conflict. Yeah. For instance, if you toss a ball, your dog tosses the ball, and your dog runs around you, that's conflict. Why? Because he's avoiding coming immediately back to you. You know, if my dog comes and my dog drops the ball like Popsy, and then 1, 2, 3 out, that's conflict. Why? There's a hesitance. There's a hesitance in the out. Yeah, there's a little bit of extra satisfaction. So all these little things could be considered conflicts. They could be.
Bella, what if the dog display about 70% of what you just described? Herding, chasing?
Yeah, normal dog, yeah?
Well, Bella's over the top.
Yeah, so I mean, so yeah, once if the dog displays circling around and chewing and avoidance, then there's still a little bit of conflict, and that conflict comes, with not trusting the human in the game and not being able to anticipate what the human is going to do, and that is how we, need to learn how to play better. So I hope that answered your question, chap. But to go back to these tennis balls, so utility-wise, no difference, but for the health and safety of the dog, shy away from tennis balls. Then the other thing what I want to mention about safety is the size of the balls, and the size for me is very important. People tend to use with way too small toys with their dogs. And for me, the rule of thumb is that the size of the toy should be equally as big as the skull. That means that you can never have a dog that can swallow the toy. Yeah. So I see so many people play with German Shepherd with these toys. The smaller, they're medium size toys. And when you look in, I've got some videos in our private Facebook page that I took from surgeries with dogs that even swallowed the large balls, and that they needed to surgically remove the ball because he swallowed it and it was stuck in his throat. Hence, I like to play with balls on a handle that if in case the dog will swallow it, I have a handle that, if in my CPR course, I teach people how to, remove an object that's stuck in the throat with certain massaging techniques, and then the handle can help. So also for safety for the dog, this type of dog is this type of Kong is probably for a medium dog. Medium-sized dog, because I just put it on the skull when it's as big as the skull, and then it will fit in his mouth, but there's no swallow risk. So that's about sizing of toys. So always choose a toy that is as big as the skull, and then it won't, you won't have a risk of swallowing it. Yeah. So. To go back to, the tennis balls, the only reason that I don't like it is because of the caustic cocktail with the saliva. Other than that, they're fine. So but to go back to the choice of a ball, so when we have a dog that, again, is low in prey drive, starting with a ball on a string might not be the right idea. With a high prey dog, starting with a loose ball might also not be the right idea. So the choice, just the choice alone between those two toys is going to immensely influence your experience in play. Like if you have a high drive dog and you toss this one, he probably is not going to lose his mind. Yeah, because he's not going to be as focused on following the ball constantly. He's going to be more interested in you tossing that ball again. Yeah, where if you would do that with a dog with low drive, and you throw it and there's no motion after the throw, the dog is, yeah, this is boring. It's fucking dead. You go get it. I don't like it. Where if you would toss the ball that is constantly moving, in the grass or in the garage, or every time it touches, it will trigger some of that prey drive. It will trigger some of that, oh, it moved. And, we'll get some more energy out of the dog. So just the choice alone is going to make a big difference. Because if you have a dog that goes completely nuts and now you need to start chasing the dog and you can't get the ball, the game is over. If the dog is only obsessed about the ball, if it's only, if his ball becomes his drug and not the interaction with you and the ball, but just obsessed by the ball, we're setting ourselves up for failure. Yeah, so just those two. Think about it. Look at your dog. Do I have a really high prey drive dog? Do I have a dog that is very possessive? Yeah, if I have a very possessive dog, come here for a minute, Ken, if you want. So can you grab that ball? So if Ken is possessive, then at least I have something to hold on to. Yeah, I'm not in his mouth trying to grab the ball. So if I need to teach the dog less possessiveness, I can literally grab the handle and stand there for half an hour until he lets go, and then I can toss it again. Where if he has this in his hand, yeah, now it's a little bit more dangerous, eh? Because what's the chance that he's going to chomp my fingers? I'm not going to hold that ball for a lot longer. Yeah? Thank you. So... yeah, game over, sorry. Good boy. Good boy. Yeah. So, so just having that, will make a big influence in how we interact. So then I have people that play with these type of giant balls. They like put the dog in the yard, and I'm going to bring this a little closer here to the camera, and then you can see all the scratches on the ball and all the dents. So a lot of people, they have busy lives, they have busy jobs, and they said, I want to entertain my dog. And they buy one of these indestructible balls, because they're cheapskates, they don't want to keep buying balls. So they buy one of these indestructible balls. You can fill them with sand, you can make them heavier and lighter, and then they let the dog interact with this toy. What is about this ball? Do you think they can fit in a mouth? No, so the ball does not fit in a mouth. It is not squishy, and it's hard, so every time they're going to touch it, what is this ball going to do? Move. What does movement do? Trigger spray drive. What is spray drive intended to do? To catch prey. What if you can't catch it? What is it going to do with you? Get you fucking crazy. Yeah? And then what you do is what? You're going to try to grab it with your mouth, you're going to try biting it, and what is that going to do besides grinding down the teeth and giving you a very high dentist bill? Make you more frustrated. That is correct. So when the dog is not being able to grab the object, what is he going to think about? When he's inside, grabbing something that he can bite, for instance, his bed, and then take his frustration out. So after half a day playing with the ball, now he comes inside, he's completely charged up, and he sees his bed, and now while you're asleep, he's finally, I can rip something to pieces. Yeah? So these type of balls are really good for some dogs, and very, 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 very bad for other dogs. If you have dogs that are, again, very prey-driven, and I give him one of these balls, what is going to do with him? Make him crazy, and he can't get it. And then you have the dogs that get kind of that hoarding behavior, and some dogs do that with rocks, so they grab the rocks and then they start scratching it and tossing the ball between their legs, and then they're tossing the ball between their legs, and it's because they can't bite it. So they're going to try ripping it apart with their paws. So these dogs have kind of a high prey drive, and now they're just going to move it. Or they're going to try burying it. But it's so heavy that they can't. So they start, playing with it, and then they start growling and stuff, and the interaction is absolutely very fun. It becomes obsessive. And why it becomes obsessive? Because they can never, ever, ever win. And that thing keeps on giving. It keeps on moving. Question from Ray.
Would that be the beginning of toy possessiveness?
Could that be the beginning of toy possessiveness? Absolutely, yes. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah? So we need to be very careful when we play with the dogs. But what is the message that we also give to the dog? If I toss this to Ken here, and then I say, well, I'll be gone for the day, what am I allowing the dog to do?
Run his own life.
Play without you.
Yes. And who is developing the rules of engagement with that ball?
He is.
The dog is. Yeah. And then after 8 hours, you come back and then you grab this from him after it was his for 8 hours. And then you're going to say, hey, now I'm going to play with my rules of engagement.
He's going to take your arm off.
Well, it might take your arm off depending on the dog, but what's going to happen is the dog says, hey, but I've been setting my rules here for 8 hours. Who the fuck are you to change them?
No trust.
Yeah? Let's try it. And then what happens is, there's a lot of ranking behavior between the owner and the dog in what rules are going to win, my rules or your rules. And that is the reason why I tell people to never, ever, ever leave the toy box open for the dog. That's why I always tell my handlers is to never have your dog access to toys, because who is interacting with the toy and who is setting the rules? The dog, not you. Yeah? And so these for me are one of the when we have working dogs, without severe aggression, then I don't use it. I use these balls when I deal with dogs that have extreme human aggression, and I'm going to try to have them redirect that frustration onto the ball so that they have a little bit of relief, and then sometimes I have more success in the interaction with them. That's just what I did with Harvey. This is actually Harvey's ball, hence it's so destroyed. So then I have people that play with these soccer balls, and they say the same thing. They toss this, and then they're going on vacation, or vacation, their 8-hour work week, and now the dog can do the same thing. However, he can bite it. And now he's like, oh my God, this is great. He starts to become obsessed by chewing. Some dogs will start ripping this apart and eating it and giving you an $8,000 foreign object of obstruction vet bill. But then, the dog starts chewing by itself, starts ripping it apart by itself. What is the lesson that we give when we are gone?
Okay to destroy things.
It's very fun to destroy things. No, it's very fun to chase things around, to grab it, to put it in different places, and then when you're bored with it and you're angry, you rip it to pieces. And then hopefully you don't eat it and send the owner to a vet bill. So the intent was really good, because you said, oh my God, I'm gone for the entire day, so I'm going to give my dog something to interact with. And what do? I did the opposite. I created a relationship with the dog, with the toy. I didn't create a relationship with me. I told the dog that, hey, this toy is very unique. It's very important. You can interact with it. You have a lot of fun with it. You play your own rules with it. And I am not important whenever this thing is around, because you know what? I'm not even there. And then when you would try to play with that same toy when you're around, the dog is like, your rules suck. I need to bring it back. I can't bite it. I can't trash it. I can't do nothing. Yeah, so again, we need to be very careful in what toys that we're going to use to do that. Wait. Then I thought I had it, but I don't. Then the other thing that we do is there are these rope toys. We have rope toys with knots, and this is not one of these, but imagine that this ball is not here, and this is just a rope. And then people will give their young puppies a rope, because it's good for the teeth, they have itchy mouth, and then when I'm gone, I'm going to put it in the crate, I'm going to give them a toy so they have something to do. What's the message you give to your dogs? Well, this is fun. And you know what ropes do eventually when you start like nipping on it? This happens, yeah? And then what you can do? Start ripping it apart. And then what you can do is, what does it teach the dog?
You start destroying stuff.
Eat it, destroy stuff. It's fun to chew on stuff. So now you have a sport goal. You're going to play Schutzhund, and Schutzhund has rules that they want a full and calm grip into a jute sleeve. So if you start doing this and tossing these toys as your young pup, and now your puppy starts chewing it and start ripping it apart, what do you think is going to happen with the bite? Oh, it starts starting to chew it and start to rip it apart. And then if you go in ring sport, what they want to do is they want to see bites that go deeper and deeper and deeper. So what if you have a toy and the dog start pulling on it and ripping it apart? What is the behavior? Well, the dog is learning to bite and then start pulling, which is great for Schutzhund to stop a guy in the rules, in the escape. But once we're dealing with ring sport, it's the opposite of what we want to see. So again, that choice, it might influence your problems you might face in development of protection sports, in bite development.
So, some of them, well, obviously I made almost every mistake that you described there, but Bella, like an innate behavior, immediately on clothes, she would look for the tags on the rug, she would look, it wasn't the whole rug, she would look for those things that she can do this. This was me giving her that as the outlet, so she doesn't do it to the rest of the stuff. So what about that?
So that's a good point. So Eyal just described, hey, we have rugs and there are tags on it, and my dog starts, want to rip all the tags off. There's a couple of things that you can do. Is you can just cut the tags off so the dog can't find the tags and then can't rip them off. Or he said, can we choose one of these toys to redirect some of the behavior? And the answer is absolutely yes. Yeah. So we can, however, use some of these toys as a behavioral modification aid, but it's an aid until we teach the dog a alternative behavior. So we can't just replace it and say, hey, go to town on this one in the hope that she's going to stop doing that, without that we're trying to teach her alternative behaviors that are actually more motivating. Yeah, because eventually she's going to run out of fun on this one. Say, well, you got something better than this? I've tried to chew this one for 3 months, and then it's the same kind of rope. I don't like it. I like the different feelings on pants and down blankets and Persian rugs, and there's so much variety in texture and size and smell and taste that every time you give me this damn rope, it's always the same. It's always the same kind of feeling. So dogs tend to get bored. Yeah. So yes, we can use these some of these toys as aids to redirect some of the behavior, but parallel, we also need to teach the dog alternative behavior, and we need to invent a game that eventually is going to be fun and give them more satisfaction than ripping this apart. The other question that we need to ask ourselves is, why is that that ripping behavior present? Is that an innate behavior? Does my puppy has done this from puppyhood? Have I seen this for many years? Or is that a behavior that has developed as a response to another problem? Yeah, so when dogs do things in their lives, when they play a certain way, they play because it's reinforcing for them. So the question that we need to ask ourselves is, why is it reinforcing for them? And is that, again, is it an innate response, or is it a learned response? Did I teach my dog to do that? Did the environment teach my dog to do that? Or did, the genetic makeup of my dog, triggered my dog to do that? So these questions we need to ask ourselves when we see these certain behaviors, and that is going to then eventually determine, what your course of action is going to be when trying to redirect or change this kind of trashing behavior. Yeah? You had a question?
Yeah, you kind of just answered it, but what's an example of something that we could redirect? Because my dog does the same thing with tags.
Tags?
Yeah.
It's fun, huh?
I guess.
So when dogs like to rip things apart, one of the things that eventually I like to do is give them something that they can rip. I like some of the bully sticks because they can actually eat it. So they can chew it, they can rip pieces off, and they can eat it. So it completes the circle. It gives the dog the opportunity to latch onto something. They hold it, which is a prey behavior. They then can bite it, chew it, grind it, pull on it, which is a prey behavior. It's destroying the thing, and then they can actually eat it. It completes the prey behavior. Yeah? So I toss it somewhere, they chase the bully stick, they grab it, they possess it, they eat it, they clamp it down, and then that comes full circle. That often is a good remedy for those types of behavior. Yeah? Often, when I see prey behavior problems, one of the reasons that the dog gets so obsessed by it is because they can actually never kill it. Yeah, the circle cannot be completed. It cannot be killed and it cannot be eaten. And that is why I absolutely do not like squeaky toys. And the reason why a squeaky toy is because the dog cannot kill the squeaky toy unless he literally trashes it and rips it apart. A lot of obsessive compulsive behavior, a lot of neurotic behavior, a lot of anxiety is actually developed because in puppyhood, in imprinting, the handler introduced squeaky toys to the puppy. And the puppy has never been able to kill and finish the cycle. So the prey got always alive, and then the more chewing behavior occurred, the more that thing started to squeak. And then eventually we get this OCD behavior about this one particular thing and object. You're laughing, you gave the dog a squeaky toy, did you? It's okay.
Well, he was already beyond his 5 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm. So, and that is what squeaky toys do. So a squeaky toy for me is a big no-no. The other thing that people do is they grab this laser pointer or a flashlight and they start shining over the ground and they like the dog chasing the flashlight. You should be hung if you do that. Because why you think this is so bad? He can never ever catch it. There's not any physical thing that he can catch. He can't smell it. He can only see it. And he gets obsessed because it moves. And so when it moves, what does the dog want to do? Is grab it. And then he can't catch it and it goes away. And then we like, hee, look at him. Ho, ho. And we do that with cats too, yeah? Yeah, we do that with cats. Oh, poor cats. And eventually, the dog is prey obsessed. And you know what's going to happen is when he chases something that he finally in his life can catch, the mailman, What do you think he's going to do?
Tear it apart.
Tear it apart. You like that one? Yeah, exactly. And then we wonder, it's like, holy shit, my doggy has never done that before. No, because this is the first time in his life he was actually successful. You know, he ran behind something and grabbed that little piece of fabric and it says, oh, finally, and then went to town. And often I see this kind of behavior because of people that played with, a laser or a flashlight or anything that the dog can't catch, video games. People with their iPads, with their phones, like all that kind of stuff. So when we think about these games, when we think about all these toys, we need to think about what is the driver for the dog to actually engage in that game. Yeah, why is the dog doing the things he's doing? Why does he chase the ball? Is it because of prey drive, or is it because he really likes bringing things back, which is a different driver? Yeah? If your dog is obsessed by bringing you stuff, that is why he chases the ball. If the dog is crazy about chasing the object and doesn't give a damn about bringing the ball back, that is a different motivator. So if we truly understand what makes my dog tick, why does my dog chase the ball? Why does my dog bring me the ball back? So in the retrieve game, I have two dogs with apparently the same behavior with two different drivers. I toss a ball, my dog runs to the ball, grabs the ball, bring me the balls back, and then I toss another ball, the dog chases it, and bring me the ball back. For dog A, the chase to the ball is extremely motivating. For dog B, the possessing the ball is very motivating. And to dog 3, bringing the ball back to you is very motivating. Because now mommy is going to say, what a good boy I am. Oh my God. Good boy. I know, Mom. I'm here with the ball. And where the other dog says, I don't give a shit about the good boy, just throw the damn fucking ball so I can fucking chase it. And then the other one is grabbing the ball and comes back like... And he said, oh my God, you're the best 20 seconds in my life. I've got this chew toy. So apparently we have the same behavior. We have a dog playing fetch with you. But there's 3 motivators. If we don't understand what motivates the dog in that game, how could we interact with it? Yes, May has a question.
So Obi doesn't like to bring balls back, but if we just started throwing a soft frisbee, he will always bring that back.
Okay, so this is a good question. So May just said, hey, if I play ball, my dog says, fuck the balls, I don't want to bring them back. If I throw a frisbee, then he always brings the frisbee back. So it depends on the balls. Do you play ball like this? Okay, that's the reason. The reason? No. He can make this move by himself. The frisbee is much harder to move. If the dog just pushes this with his nose, it goes away. If he pushes the frisbee, it's still dead. He needs you to put movement into the toy. Yeah? You add more value to the frisbee than you do to the ball. Yeah? The other thing is the frisbee, when you grab it, you probably have grabbed it in his mouth. You're more away from his muzzle. You're not in his muzzle. Does that make sense? So less conflict. So the frisbee has less conflict than the ball. As a puppy, thank you, los. As a puppy, you probably have chased him with the ball. Because he ran away with the ball. Did you ever chase him with a ball?
I'm sure.
Did you ever chase him with a frisbee? I don't think so. And there I go. Yeah. So often when we start playing with dogs, we tend to, everybody starts with a ball, and that's where, the first toy that you use is always the toy that gets a little bit of conflict. And then we buy another toy, and then we play kind of similar games, similar rules. However, we tend to be more successful. The dog is actually bringing the toy back a little bit. And now the dog says, hey, playing with that toy, I perceive less conflict than with my original toy. And then we like that frisbee better because we don't realize what we've kind of done with the first ball. As a puppy, it's like, this damn dog, give me the ball. And then the puppy's 14 weeks old, and we pry the mouth open, and it's like, give it back. And then you toss it. And the dog is like, this motherfucker. Yeah? And if you've never done that with a frisbee, then the dog says, hey, every time I see this, there's a potential that we might get some conflict because my handler might actually come and pry it out of my mouth, where if that never happened with a frisbee, the dog is very happy to give it to you. Does that make sense? Because there was never competition about this. There was never ranking about who possesses the frisbee. There was probably ranking in who possesses the ball. Hence, I don't like to play with these balls on a string. Any more questions online? I'm looking at Eyal here.
Online, but I can understand when you separate and explain each one of them, but Bella really confuses me. I remember when she was really young, she caught a bird and put it on my feet. I never asked for it. She brought it in, put it there. That's a prey, right? She brought me something.
Did you eat it? Quail?
On the other hand, ball, like when we toss the balls, she doesn't want to give it back. So it's conflicting to me, at least.
Well, as a puppy, sometimes, they bring prey in order to show, hey, look at my first hunt, look at my first catch. This is something for you to eat and to share and be proud and, give me the heart and the liver, or eat the heart and the liver and then give me the rest of the bird. If you're the alpha, because that's what they want to do. Yeah, if the hunters come, then the heart and the liver and the kidneys is for the boss, and then all the rest of the meat is for the other one. So if you didn't take the heart and the liver out, then
You're so well. You ruined it.
you ruined it.
Didn't go the extra mile.
That's a joke. That's a joke. Yeah, don't go do this, guys. That's a joke. No, but we often see that it's in young pups. But then, the ball, again, if the bird is dead and the dog pushes it with his nose, can we see the table on this? Just angle the camera a little bit, it's fine. There you go, Facebook, don't get dizzy. Like, if this is a bird and the dog does this, it's kind of dead. If this is the bird and the dog does this with the ball, you see how much movement I can have? So that triggers the dog to interact more and often get more possessiveness over the thing. If she just start doing this, the bird is dead. You hear the sound? The dog is like, oh, every time I bite it, I get a response. And that is why often with the balls, there is more conflict. Yeah. So if I'm very careful and I can see, hey, my dog is either a chewer or he's not a chewer, or he's a good retriever or he's not, by choosing the right toy, I can facilitate some behaviors that I like to see more, and I can eliminate some of the behavior that I don't like to see. So then eventually when we kind of find a toy that is that matches us, that we have a reasonable amount of success with, that the dog is interested in, that the dog wants to bring back, the dog might want to tug on it, then, with that particular toy, we can go to last week's lesson. Yeah, we can start building our rules of engagement. We can start teaching the dog, how to have fun with that particular toy. Yeah. I always say it's my 2-ball game, but it can be 2 tug game, it can be 2 rope game, it can be 2 Kong game, it can be whatever 2 toy game that you have. Take the attention away from the object and start teaching the dog how to interact with it. Yesterday I played with Bandit with a chucket. Yeah, and then it's a chucket, it's like a launcher thing. And in last week's lesson, that was yesterday's lesson. I was not online, but I'll do another one. Yesterday's lesson, I talked about that our goal is to take all associations away from any object. Yeah, so that our shoes mean nothing, that our coat means nothing, that taking our car keys mean nothing, because in most people's cases, when they put on their shoes and their jacket, they think the dog thinks they're leaving. Or I'm maybe go to bed or put on my couch. Or when I take the leash, that, oh my God, we're going to go bye-bye. Where, I just take the leash and it's hanging on my neck and I'll eat soup or something. So that our goal is to try to make all Pavlovian associations as small as possible. So with the chucket, one of the biggest problems, I don't have a launcher here because I don't like to use them. But if these flags are a chucket, as soon as I grab this thing, what is my dog is going to do? It's going to be jacked up, yeah? And you know what this thing does all the time? This, it makes the ball fly. So in your game, that is a big no-no, because your dog can start predicting behavior based upon a tool, based upon an external tool. One of the things that I do with the chucket is I start petting the dog with it. Good job, good doggy. Good, Monica. Yeah, and I put food in it. Here, eat out of the chucket. Yeah, or I start carrying it with me when I go on a walk, or I lay the chucket on my table, and this does not mean that a ball is going to come and fly. Yeah, a lot of people have problems because their dog comes so high into drive because they saw one particular object. Yeah, so I did that yesterday with Bandit. I started using the launcher very different, and it didn't take him very long to realize that this thing it's not about this thing, it's about this guy. Oh, I need to pay attention to that guy, and then I'm going to start understanding, knowing when the ball is going to go in what direction. Yeah, so again, choosing a chucket launcher in your game, if we don't realize what the chucket launcher is contributing to your game, it can be an aid or it can be your worst enemy. Should you not use a chucket launcher? No, you should. If you're 90 years old and you can toss the ball 2 feet, please use a fucking launcher. If you have arthritis and you just can't toss a ball, use a launcher. There's not a no-no against a launcher, but we need to understand what the launcher contributes in the game. And then, when people grab the launcher and it says, my dog goes completely nuts when he sees that chucket thing coming out, I said, yeah, but that's your fault. The dog is not born obsessed over your launcher. You made it obsessed about the launcher. Yeah? You made it obsessed about the ball. You made it. Every time he saw this thing, what did you do? You play. Every time. That's the stupidest thing you ever do. Yeah. Like seeing a condom and think you're going to fuck every day. It's not happening. Believe me. That's a bad joke. Nobody's laughing. It's for the internet. But if I have a ball He's laughing.
Well, the second one was good.
So, if I have a ball, what should I do? Play all the time? No. No. Sometimes feed the dog the ball. Click food. What are you teaching the dog?
It's not about the ball.
Oh, no, it's not because the ball is there that we're going to play. You click food. It's not because food is there that we're going to eat. No, I have food and a ball. If you don't hear the clicker, what does that mean?
Don't eat?
Yeah, we're not going to eat. We're going to play ball. Well, I'm not hungry. I don't want to play with the ball. I'm hungry. Well, it's not your day to tell you if you're hungry or not. If you don't want to play, and I'm not going to feed you. What does that do? Put you in charge of the rules, boundaries, and limitations of the engagement that you have with food, the ball, etc., etc. And the other thing is, it's not going to make your dog completely obsessed about this. Does that make sense? And so that is super, super important that we do that. Sometimes I alter. In my game, I'll toss the ball, I grab the ball in my hand, I click and I grab food and I'll feed it. It's not because the dog, the ball is present that it's accessible. What is that going to teach your dog? To think and to pay attention to you. And then eventually you start combining everything. So if I try to do this, if I try to have a thinking dog in my game with a dog that is completely prey obsessed, and I'm going to bring this ball out, probably not a good idea in my training to try to teach control at that particular moment. Yeah? If I have a bite wedge from a dog that is completely obsessed about a bite wedge, and I'm going to implement and teach him, hey, the bite wedge is not accessible, and here's food, that's probably the wrong toy to start with. So eventually, like not realizing how much fun the dog had with a particular moment, if, for instance, you have this ball and you have, for half a year, or a year, the dog has allowed to interact with this ball by itself. And now, you wake up and you have this brilliant idea. Oh, my dog's crazy about this ball. I'm going to use it in training and healing. What do you think is going to fucking happen? You won't have a dog. He's going to be like, hey, Fido, fuck you. Hey, Fido, fuck you. He's going to be completely obsessed about this ball. So what is that going to lead to? Frustration. Hey, motherfucker! You pee-peed your pants a little bit now? Is it? Yeah? That's what we do, yeah? Then the dog is going to do that exact same thing. Is going to just, geez, where the hell is this come from? Why is this necessary? I'm just looking at my toy. I can't help but looking at my toy. Why? You made me an addict. You made me addicted to this. You know why? Because you gave it to me for 6 months, 8 hours a day, and I cannot help but be addicted to this when this is there. And then we yell at our dogs. I do the exact same thing. The experience that you had, your dog has. It's like, geez, man, why? So we set our dogs up for failure when we bring that toy into our training. If we then want to say, oh, I'm going to start transitioning from food to a toy, but you know what? It's like I just injected them with fentanyl, or heroin. It's like, wow, I said, that dog can't think anymore. The only thing he gets is he needs his little shot. He needs his little, rush. And he can't think. And so we're shooting ourselves into the foot, which leads then to conflict. Yeah? So when we have a dog that is obsessed by something for whatever reason, we made a mistake with a puppy and he has this favorite toy, what should we do?
Eliminate it?
Yes, sir.
Say that again, please.
So if we made a mistake and we created this dog that is completely obsessed by this one particular item, what should we do? Take it away.
Toy, okay.
Yeah. and create a new game that approximates the old game with lesser intensity but control. Yeah, and that's something that we need to do. Yeah, the same with food. The next in one of my next lectures, it will be what about food? Yeah, because I have the same rules about food. But for instance, like if you have a dog that is completely food obsessed, and then you're going to train him with tri-tip or hot dogs or gorgonzola cheese. Yeah? There's actually people that use gorgonzola, believe it. It's absolutely, yeah. That was a joke. So if we have a dog that's completely food obsessed, what do? The dog cannot think anymore. So if you have, this super high value food in your hand, and now you just start luring, the dog is not registering what he's doing because he's so food obsessed that the only thing he thinks about is acquiring the food. And then your entire luring process is thrown out the window. So that's why with very food obsessed dogs, we need to go to a very low value food, because they value food so much that even that low value food is going to give them a lot of satisfaction. And when we lower that value of the food, we lower that obsessiveness a little bit, and we're opening the mind to start thinking. We're opening the mind to start registering what he's actually doing and what he needs to do. So we bring a little bit of that brain back. So the same thing with toys. If my dog is completely toy obsessed, by choosing the most valuable toy for him while we're trying to teach him something, it's not a good idea, because the dog is so obsessed about the acquisition of the toy that he's not going to register what he actually did. He might do the right thing for you. He might sit, he might down, he might even come to a perfect heel. The problem, however, is that because of that high obsessiveness, he's actually not registering the behavior that led to the acquisition of that toy. The only thing that was reinforcing for him was the obsessive mind. So when we did reinforce, we did say yes, we did click, what did we actually reward? And I say that in my From Tyrant to Teacher seminars all the time. What did we reinforce? Was it the healing, or was it the obsessive thought about the toy? The latter, when the motivation for a particular object is too high. So then we need to be very, very careful in how to use it, and then often reducing. And that's what happened with Bandit yesterday. How did I reduce that obsessiveness?
Throwing it shorter.
Yes, ma'am. By not allowing him to chase it that much. Because otherwise, if he goes full out, what happens with Bandit? He loses his mind. But if I just tossed it in his mouth, what happened? Oh, I have my ball. And how did I get this ball? He started thinking. Oh, I pay attention to this guy, and I did not bark at him. And I went closer to him, and I sat, and I licked his hand, and I sniffed, and he gave me a little pat on the head. That happened, actually, yesterday. And then I was able to rub his cheeks. And he's like, oh, my God, that's what I need to do to get the ball? And the reason why I was able to do that with Bandit is because I lowered the drive, I lowered the intensity, and I just gave him the ball. And Bandit is obsessed to the chase. He's not obsessed to the ball. He's obsessed to chasing the ball. Yeah? And that is what happens with a lot of dogs. It's not so much about the possessiveness of the item, it's about the acquisition. And I tell people all the time, it shouldn't, when we do it really right, with many dogs, the acquisition phase of a particular object is more important than having the object itself. Not with all dogs. We have dogs that are innately very possessive, and that is a little like Jerry Lee. He loves that stuff, and and we have with Jerry Lee have used possessiveness in our advantage to create other behaviors. Yeah. So it's not, possessiveness is not a bad thing. It actually helped us doing Except you're doing other stuff. But again, the art is to realize what we have and what makes the dog tick, you know. With Jerry Lee, it was not chasing it. He didn't give a fuck about chasing. He said, this is mine, it's mine and mine alone. And he gets a lot of, yeah, you get a very, very good feeling with this possessiveness. Where with others, you know, they have it to spit it out. Can we chase it again? Can we chase it again? And so it's the acquisition phase that that is more important. Hence, you know, I make people walk backwards with food. It's not about the food, it's about getting the food. It's about adding that value. And with every toy that we do, that is what we should bear in mind, is that our interactions can influence the dog's feeling, the fun factor. Yeah. If I here, can we play tug of war again? So if I have a dog that likes to play tug of war, just hold the ball for me. Yeah. Just squeeze it really hard. Little fucker. What a loser. You see, my dog, thank you, Ken. My dog always lost the ball. In my tug of war game, my dog always loses. What makes me is a dick. Yeah? So now the dog finally gets the ball out of my hands. What do you think this dog is going to do?
Run away.
Bye-bye. Why? Because playing tug of war always made the dog lose. Hence, I always say, if I play tug of war with the dog, yeah, I always lose. But the interaction that I have, the acquisition phase of getting the ball, sometimes lasts 15 minutes. I can play a 5, 10, 15 minute, 30 seconds, 5-second game of tug of war, and then at the end, the dog wins the ball. And then I'm done. Dog say, motherfucker. Can we do that again? That's really cool. This interaction with you with the ball is super fun. And then I bring the attention back to the acquisition phase of the ball, and it's the tug. By letting my dog win, he can have it all the time. If he runs away with it, that's fine. I don't give a shit. Yeah? I'm gonna play with my other ball. And that's where my 2-ball game comes in, or 2-toy game comes in. But eventually the dog is going to learn that, again, that tugging is super fun. And then with possessive dogs, that we actually possessing it is actually less fun. But by bringing it back and offering it for another tug game, now we're getting somewhere. And then again, it brings the attention away from the item. Thank you. And it draws all the attention back to the interaction that you have with this, or that, or that, or that, or that, or whatever it is. Yeah? And that, for me, is super important. That is where, you know, last week, again, I explained a little bit in deeper detail how we develop this, how do we do that. But that is also why the choice of your toy can either contribute to that, to make that process a lot easier or a lot more difficult. By understanding innate drives, by understanding what it is what my dog naturally does. Yeah? Question?
Okay, so I won, the dog won, and the dog goes away, the dog comes back and wants to play tug again.
Mm-hmm.
You play tug again with the dog?
Yes.
And then give the dog back? When do we get the release?
What do you mean?
The release when the dog gives you the toy and he doesn't have the toy no more, you have
When he lets it go.
when he lets it go.
Yeah.
But if he just keeps playing tug and don't want to...
That's fine. That's what he is fun. I had a dog like that. She's 12 years old. She's in her crate. She played tug of war, and then as soon as she had the toy, I never asked for an out. She grabbed the ball and she heeled with the ball like that in her mouth, just carried it, and then I gave him my marker, and then we played, and I was not about the ball. And that was a great game for her. And then sometimes what I did is I would trade it for food, or I trade it for something else. So I mean, yes, she has an out, and she plays well with the ball. But when my dog is a little bit possessive, and she likes playing tug and interacting, I am going to try to avoid conflict by demanding an out. What is wrong by having a sit or a down or heeling with a dog with his toy in his mouth? Nothing. Eventually, the dog will realize that trading to your toy is more fun, because now you're not playing tug with her toy, you're only playing tug with your toy if she doesn't switch. And that's how I slowly but surely developed that. But in the beginning, I'm not going to, get any conflict if I, have a possessive dog. I'm going to teach him that interaction with me is there, and it's not about it. So why should I ask for it? Because then I bring attention to the tug anymore. Yeah. So just let her heel with the tug in the mouth, for the time being, and create fun. Teach the dog that you're not a thief. Teach the dog that you're a contributor to the game. And once the dog realizes that, you can bring in a second toy and then tell the dog that, hey, now it's about playing with mine, not about playing with yours. And then you do like switch games. And the dog grabs this, play a little bit of tug, grab the other ball, and then, no, I'm going to play with that one. And eventually, once the dog starts offering that behavior, you can start cueing it. Yeah. The problem with people is in their games, when they don't have an out, they start cueing behavior that is not even there. If the dog does not naturally let go of stuff, how can you ask for that behavior? The behavior's not there. So if your dog does not offer you the toy, and you say out, what are you saying to your dog? Just bark, woof. If the dog does not know the behavior of letting go, if the dog does not offer you the behavior of letting go, how can you cue it if it's not developed? Out! By doing that. Yeah, by doing that. By scaring the fucking bejesus out of you. Now the dog dropped the ball and said, where the hell did that go, motherfucker? Was that fun? No, it wasn't fun, but hence that's what we do, yeah? Because we don't have the behavior of letting go, so we're going to demand it by yelling at it. Because we get frustrated, yeah, exactly. Because we don't have the patience. That's horrible, huh? Yeah. Yeah, that's how our dogs feel. Yeah, I know. Yeah, question?
Yes, so you're playing 2-ball in the backyard.
Yes.
And you're done. You don't take the ball away from him. You let him bring the ball in. He lays in the bed.
No. I'm going to trade it. Yeah, I'm going to trade it eventually for food from something really nice. Yeah, or just walk him. I'm just going to walk him on a leash until he drops it, and then I walk away.
He won't drop it. That's what I'm saying. So let's say I'm out with the chuck it.
He never drops it.
No, he won't drop it.
He drops it until the next morning.
Oh, well, eventually, but I'm saying, yeah.
So it still drops it. It's just that you're a little impatient then.
Well, if we're playing chuck it and I want him to get in the crate, do I let him get in so we can leave? If we're
So that's a problem, yeah?
Yeah.
You want to leave. That's not his problem. So you're impatient because you don't have the hour because you want him to drop it now.
Right.
You should have played an hour earlier then. See where I'm getting?
Yes.
Or trade it for something nice. And that's often, so when we do have a conflict in our game, when we do have a conflict like possessiveness, and we say, you know what, I'm in a rush, I'm going to give him some exercise because we're going to be long away, so we're going to play ball. Don't play the ball game if it's going to end in conflict. Because what are you telling the dog? You have a little bit of fun and it's going to end up in a bad situation. Yeah? Just don't take him then. Or play a little bit earlier so you can avoid conflict. Or when he would drop it for steak, then that would be my last resort to fix it, is trade it for something really good to avoid further conflict. Does that make sense? But that is what we need to train ourselves to do. Like if we do have conflict in our game, don't use the game, just before you're in a rush. If you know that the dog is going to end up being possessive and you're going to end up in conflict, and then what you're demonstrating to your dog is that it's always ending in conflict, and hence the game is not fun. Yeah? Or the interaction leads to stress. Just give yourself a little bit more time, or then don't play, or cancel your meeting, or I don't know, it's impractical, but we need to allow ourselves just that extra 10 minutes. If you don't take him 10 minutes for a walk, he probably will drop the ball. If you give him a piece of fresh chicken, or he probably will drop the ball. Yeah, so use that as a bridge in order to get away from the conflict, and that gives you eventually the opportunity to train that conflict away. Yeah, because that's something that we need to do. And so when you do have a game that has conflict, like, don't make it worse by pushing yourself into a time squeeze that you can't fix it. Yeah, and yes, there's ways out of a lot of things. If we have a dog that's completely food motivated, then sometimes we just don't have the time. Like if I had a very possessive aggressive dog here, I knew that I could not start a session 3 hours before I needed to go somewhere, because sometimes my sessions would take that long in order to end it well. So I knew not to play a particular game, or not do a particular activity before I had a meeting, or I have another client, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay? You have a question?
What about toys in the house?
Toys in the house is for me a no. And the reason why toys in the house is a big no is, wine glasses are getting broken. Is not so much. So free access to toys in the house for me is a big no. There's no free access. My house has rules, and that means my living room is not a playroom. My living room is a place for calm behavior. Yeah? If you start playing with the dog in the living room, then the living room is now conditioned for calm behavior plus excited behavior. And now the dog needs to figure out what behavior is appropriate in what time. Then the living room, if you also let the dog sleep in the living room, some people have a pillow and the dog sleeps downstairs in the living room. Now the dog says, oh, is it sleepy time? Is it calm behavior time? Is it excited time? Then if you also have the dog eat in the living room, then what time is it? Is it eating? Is it sleeping? Is it excited time? Is it calm time? I don't want my dog to think about this. I want my dog, when he sees the living room, it's calm behavior. When he sees my bedroom, or whatever it is, it's sleepy time. When he's in the yard, in his potty area, he knows it's potty. And then when I'm on the training field or on my play area, he knows it's play. So I try to condition my dog's energy level and mind state to the situation where I'm in. So if I would play and wrestle and eat and do everything in my living room, my dog has never any idea in what mind state he needs to be. And he's going to determine that on Pavlovian conditioned responses from you. Oh, he grabbed his jacket. Or, he's grabbing the ball. Or he's doing something, and then might make the inappropriate choice and go into a much higher behavior where you had no intent to even play with him. Does that make sense? So you asked that question. Yeah, so...
I brought that up because I used to have toys in the house, and when I met you, there ain't no more toys in my house.
Mm-hmm. No, and so my reason is I don't want the dog to interact with himself with the toys, and I don't want the dog to initiate play inside my house. I am the one who initiates play. If my dog has access to the toy, and we want to build engagement, yeah, that's what we want to do. We always want to build engagement and reinforce engagement, because that's the biggest issue that people have, is engagement. So if the dog comes and he wants to engage with you in the house because he found his toy and now I'm not playing with him, what does that make me? A dick. Does that make sense? Because the dog made an effort in engaging with you and you blew him off. So I need to set myself up for success that he can't find this toy, because I don't want to blow him off. So that's why the toys go away. Yeah, my toys are stored in different parts of my house. So my biggest reason, though, is mind state, is anticipation of energy level. Because I don't want my dog to anticipate very high energy levels when I'm in my house because of a toy, or because of the question that he has is like, hey, what mind state do I need to be in? Is it eating time, sleeping time, social time, whatever it is, cuddle time, by dad in the ass time? So we don't want to make the dog guess to mate what time it is. So the more clear I can make it, the more clarity I can bring, yeah, the better it is going to be, and the easier it is for us to manage the environment. And that's basically what we do, is we manage the environment and we increase clarity in our communication, because a toy box is what? A visual cue. A visual cue of what? That excitement behavior might follow. And if I give my dog access to that, and then again, I don't interact with him, well, there's disappointment. Disappointment leads to frustration, and then the dog says, you know what? I gave you 16 attempts to engage, and I'm not reinforced. And so that way I can undermine my relationship with my dog. So I need to be very careful with that. So hence I don't have toys in my house. Any other questions?
So Bella, again, two balls. You know of all the stages we went to get to the two balls, but I'm honest to say, she outsmarts me. Now it's at the point where she knows she needs to give the ball back. I used to turn around, she would drop it behind my back, and I would listen. Now she has this thing where she dropped it, she comes in front of me, I toss the ball, she goes back, she picks it up and runs after the other ball.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm running out of options, solutions here.
So this is a very interesting question. So Eyal and Bella have a conflict in two ball. Bella drops the ball behind her, and then he wants to say yes and toss the ball. And now Bella is anticipating that, and then picking the ball that she drops behind him, and then runs to the ball that has been thrown. How do we solve this? We don't throw the ball. How could we solve it? She bite the ball out of my hands. Just acquire it right here. Because if we always toss the ball, what is she going to anticipate? So is it two ball game, or is it retrieve game that we're playing? Is my two ball game always the ball flies forward? Or is two ball game, it's forward, it's backwards, you bite it out of my hand, we play tug. And then you fly it, you bite it out of my hand, you play tug. I toss it left, I toss it right. So if those options are always random, then my dog is not going to anticipate that whenever she drops the ball, she's going to run forward. Is 90% of your tosses are forward, then this is where the dog is going to anticipate, and then knows, oh, that motherfucker's going to throw that ball, but I'm going to possess that ball because I have a dog that is naturally possessive. And then gets away with it, and then it's reinforcing, because now it's reinforcing to pick the ball up. Then she's picking the other ball up, and then you chase her. And that's exactly what she wants, because she's also a herding dog. And she says, oh, now I'm being chased. Oh, jackpot. So the way to stop that is to implement a lot more of other options. And I like the acquisition of the ball and then play tug with her. Because if I have a dog that then likes to possess the ball and she's on the ball while I'm playing tug, I can let her win while I grab the ball that's on the ground. So that's how I would solve that issue. Any other questions? Any questions online? Want to wait here 30 seconds? Okay, Ken, anything you picked up in today's lesson?
Yes. So what I'm going to do now is that I've got a dog that goes and gets a stick, brings me the stick and wants to play. I didn't want a stick dog, but now we're going to take and change that behavior over to the ball. Is what we're going to do.
Yeah, play tug with the ball.
Yes, because she'll go after the ball, but hopefully somewhere in here she'll quit doing the stick and just want the ball.
Because the stick has less conflict.
Oh yeah, she
Way
brings
less
them in out
conflict.
of the woods.
Yeah, because there's a little bit of conflict with you and Shira and the ball, but with the sticks there are obviously less conflict, so hence she's better in bringing all that stuff back.
Yes. So we're working on that.
Yeah, good.
Based on today.
Yeah, good. Anything you learned, picked up? Any other questions?
I'm doing everything wrong.
Aren't we all, sweetie?
Don't sit in the front row. Same comment from Mary. Oh my God, I did so much.
So my dachshund is super neurotic and anxious, and he's obsessed with squeaky toys. So everything you said really hit home for that, and I'm noticing that like I'm just encouraging that behavior by giving him the squeaky toy.
Yeah.
Are you saying it doesn't complete the cycle? Because he does kill the squeaker every single time, but it doesn't complete the cycle because he doesn't get to eat it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
just take him away from them and let him
Never buy
interact.
it again.
No, and let him interact with something different.
Okay.
One of the things that I use for dogs that have been obsessed by squeaky toys is I will use a softer Kong, not a harder Kong, and fill it with some frozen almond butter, cashew butter, or cashew, no, that's bad for the dogs, but almond or peanut butter and some kibble, and having the chewy, squeezy behavior, but then also something that they can swallow that often treats the OCD in
He's
killing it.
obsessed with Kong, so that makes sense. When I'm getting ready to leave, he runs to the freezer and he's so excited for me to leave.
Because he knows he gets his special Kong.
Yeah.
So if you do that, by taking that squeaker away, you're going to win half the battle.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. He will get calmer by taking that squeaker away. Any other questions? Anything you want to share?
No, well, the thing that you said about creating clarity of like your expectations and their mindset in different areas of the house is really, really helpful.
Yes.
Because I feed Goose in the living room, we play in the living room. I also want him to calm down and take a nap when I don't want to play anymore.
So
it's really confusing.
Yeah, so one of the things that I would do is don't play with him anymore. Feeding is fine, but don't wrestle with him
At
and
all.
don't play with him. Not in the living room.
Okay.
Go to your desk. If you have a guest room, the guest room is a wrestle room, but not in the living room. Close the door. Make sure he doesn't have access to the guest room, and then don't play in your living room anymore.
Okay.
And just do calm behavior in the living room. Everything is calm.
If
That
he starts
means-
getting crazy, do I take him to the play area
No,
or ignore him?
No, because otherwise you're going to reinforce that. Hey, being crazy in the living room is going to make me play in the guest room. So
Yeah.
let's not do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ignore that.
Okay.
Yeah. And when I say all behavior is quiet, make sure you are also quiet. Like, don't throw big parties in the living room with
Okay.
other guests or have children play when you try to teach your dog to be calm, because dogs do model. Yeah, so when we want to fix this behavior, when we have a dog that is pretty crazy, make sure that the dog is not exposed to a lot of wild and high energy
In that space.
in that space. Yeah, for a particular amount of time, and then that will change pretty quickly. Because that's a problem with people with kids in the house. If the kids play in the living room, they have outdoor voices inside, and it's always chaos. And when your dog is exposed to that, your dog is also exposed to high energy and can't calm down. Sometimes I tell people to get rid of kids, but then I get into trouble when I say that. So, but it's a joke. It's not real. It's not real.
It's not real.
Yeah. No, but that's often a problem, yeah, because the dog is exposed to that, and then they tend to model. Especially, if you look at the lecture about the imprinting and, the imprinting periods, between 8 weeks and 20 weeks. If my puppy is exposed to that variation of energy, then my puppy is going to be conditioned to that variation of energy and is going to guesstimate, when he's older, what energy level is appropriate based upon what he saw when he was a young puppy. Yeah. So your solution is no squeaky toys and no more play inside the house and no free access to the toy.
Cool.
Yeah. Good. Daniel, anything you want to add? Say.
A lot, but don't be a dick and force an out if she doesn't know the command.
Yes. Yeah, and with any behavior, don't force the dog into a behavior that he actually doesn't know, and don't start cueing a behavior that he doesn't know. Yeah, I think that's a really valuable lesson, especially the out. It's better to wait and then teach the dog that, hey, if you're not outing, I'm not re-engaging. Yeah, and give the dog the time to figure that one out. Yeah.
That was huge for me. Very
Good.
huge for me.
Good. May,
I'm doing everything wrong.
aren't we all?
Yeah, well, so the one toy that Obi just like loses his mind over is that teaser toy, with the pole.
Yeah.
And I used to get so angry at him when he was younger. I thought, well, maybe if I get another one. So I got a second one, and that's the only way he would drop the first one, is if he saw me playing with the second one. So should I continue that, or just because he's so obsessed?
You did make a good change by using two, because with two we can
Right,
start,
right.
changing. But if we depends on what obsessiveness or what other unwanted behaviors are there because of the toy.
Well, if he doesn't see it,
He's fine. Exactly.
But all he has to do is see it, and he just
He goes nuts.
He's just airborne. He's just ready to play.
So let's bring them next time you come, so I
Okay.
can observe it and see what
yeah.
behavior he
It's
develops.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
really crazy.
I want to see it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Anything that you picked up today, sir?
Same what we just talked about.
Not forcing any behavior,
Yeah,
waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really tough. And I am the dog's biggest problem. I'm like the child. I'm loud. I just go crazy in the house, but I am the child, and I try to be a grown up, but
It's hard
I can't.
sometimes.
I
I
can't.
have the same problem. So the advice that I have for you and seeing Bandit yesterday and the interaction that I have with him is I would try to reduce the heavy interactions inside the house, and I would, when you play, I would play at 70% of your energy levels with him. That doesn't mean that you can have fun and go bananas, but that you sometimes implement, here, just a toss in your mouth, and that you start petting him with the chucket, that you put some food in the chucket.
That's the hard part because he is not food obsessed at all.
I know, it's fine.
It's just he's like, yeah, food, whatever.
Yeah, you don't feed him 3 days, he'll eat out of the chucket, believe me. He's gonna be really hungry.
I can't do that with her.
Why not?
Because she would go, he's starving. He needs
No,
food.
he's not. No, he's not starving.
It's the mom.
It's totally fine. Yeah, but it start implementing that. Is not always when the chucket is there, is don't create the anticipation that that ball is gonna fly really far. Yeah, and start altering that. And that when he drops the ball, that does not mean that the other ball flies immediately. Sometimes there's a delay. Sometimes you need to sit. Sometimes you need to down. Sometimes you need to come. Sometimes you need to do a little bit of work. Yeah, playing with a dog is not going crazy over an object. It's interacting with you. And so if you look at wolves in the wild, that doesn't mean that when these wolves play, that they don't display any other behavior. They sit each other, sometimes they roll around, sometimes they bark, sometimes they dig holes, sometimes they bite each other in the ass, you know? But there's other behaviors that are there. It's not just the play. And so when I play with a dog, a sit, a down, a stand, a heel, a thing is part of my game. Yeah, so those behaviors are part of the playful interaction. And of course, we can't ask for very complex behaviors in the beginning. We need to be very, easy on the dog. But yeah, ask him for a sit for five seconds. Ask him for a down for 5 seconds. And what that is going to do is going to break that anticipation of flying to that other ball immediately. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that, I think, if you then don't toss your ball at maximum, but sometimes just toss it 10 feet and sometimes toss it 100 feet, go for it. Yeah, but don't always toss it far, because he's obsessed by that chase. And that's when Bandit loses his mind a little bit, and by bringing some thinking inside the game, I think he'll calm down as a dog in general. I think a lot of the behaviors that we've been working on is going to, by changing the rules of play, is going to change as well. I think he's going to calm down because the different way you're playing with him.
So the ball with the string.
Love it.
Take it out, put it in your pocket, and go in the kitchen and make lunch.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And just leave it there and let him go bananas and follow you all over and just jump on the
put
counter.
it in your pocket.
Yeah, just put it in the pocket.
Yeah.
And he's gonna be obsessed for 30 minutes, and then just grab it and put it back in the toy box and close the door.
Yeah, yeah. And then when your dog is really calm, what do you do? If the dog is not following you and he sits, what do?
You praise him.
How?
By giving him the toy.
No, by going outside and playing with him. Don't give him the toy
Right,
in the
that's
living
what
room.
I meant. We don't play inside at all.
Okay, good. But then go out with the dog.
Right, then go out.
After calm behavior, 100%. Because then giving him a cookie would not be good, because it's not about the cookie. It's about that interaction. Exactly. And then give him a little bit. And then don't go overboard. Don't go like chuck it as high as you can. Just toss it 2 times.
In the backyard. Just
Yeah,
toss
1,
it
2,
3
3 times, done.
Go inside.
Yeah, and then go inside and then put the toy away.
Perfect.
Start doing that.
Perfect.
Ma'am, anything you want to add, say?
No, learned a lot. Really brings home the know the dog you have, and because we didn't understand what we were dealing with, and thought we were doing the right thing by hurling that
Of course.
ball and making him run. Oh, he's having a great time, but
Because
we
it's about the
realized-
physical activity, yeah?
Yeah, we
It's
thought
getting all that
he's-
piss and vinegar out of it.
out, and and we thought we were doing the right thing, and realizing that no, we really weren't. And
Yeah, and
it's
then
good to know we're
yeah,
learning
and-
a lot.
exactly. And the problem with these like big heavy games is we create an Olympic athlete that's nuts. So in order for him to calm down, we need to play more and run him more, but his mind is still obsessed. So we're increasing the problem rather than decreasing the problem. And a calm mind is a calm dog. Creating a top athlete body is not going to help you. So just working with physical exercise and physical activity is not going to help you maintain that calm, assertive dog. We need to work on the mind and mind state in order to do that. Yeah? And that's where reducing some of the physical intensity will help your dog bringing the mind back. Yeah, and help him think. If my dog is not thinking and just go crazy, then yes, he might be tired, but give him 5 minutes and he can do this again. Yeah. But when my dog is really, tired because he solved a problem, they often sleep for the rest of the day because their mind is completely saturated. Yeah. So that's why, altering the game a little bit and asking him, to, hey, solve this problem. How do you get your other ball? Oh, you need to come to me. You need to sit. You need to be quiet for a couple of minutes. One of the things that happened yesterday with me is he resorted back to his barking to me. And what did that solve for him? Nothing. And then you could start seeing him think. It's like, holy shit, this is not working. And then he came up to me, he touched my hand, and said, yep, there you go. And I tossed it in his mouth. a couple. That's all I did, from me to you, literally. And he grabbed it, and he looked at me,
He was like, whoa.
like, really? He spit out the ball. She grabbed the ball for me. I said, come. And he's here. He licked my hand. Poof. And he got it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's because I made him think a little bit. Yeah? And so implementing those types of things by redirecting the attention from just physical activity to I need to think a little bit about how do I acquire that ball? How do I need to change my behavior so she will throw it? If we implement that, now we're going to get somewhere. Yeah? Good job. Ray.
If you do this right, you create another problem. They're at your feet all the time. You're tripping over them.
That is true.
You know, and then you get frustrated. You want to bark at them. Well, don't. Just, find something else. Like I do a long down at the house. I do long down. But you got to remember to say free. We say free, and the reward is me petting them. And now it's instant. It's like sometimes I walk in the room, they go right to the pillow. But you do this correctly, that's what you get. And then you have no problems, no conflicts. It works.
It works. Good. Chantal, anything that you picked up from this lecture?
Well, for me, patience is the number one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the fun is the interaction with me. Like, when we first talked about this a few months ago when I first bought Bruno here, that really made the whole difference in our two-ball game, or in any game that we play.
Is the interaction.
It's the interaction. Yeah, because before I put so much emphasis on the toy. I'm like, oh, he doesn't like this toy, he doesn't want to play. But no, it's actually the interaction with me that made the difference.
Yeah, and one of the things, I think I mentioned it 2 or 3 weeks ago when we do the group obedience on the field, is one of the rewards that you give him is interacting with food, and you're all over him, you're pushing him around, you're jumping backwards, he's jumping on you. So that's also a game. And so that game is not using a toy, but was using food as a toy. And I gave her a compliment about that because I thought it was so brilliant. And that is what I want to see, is the dog that then engages you, not because of what you have, but what you did with it. And if we can do that, if we can bring all the attention from what we have to how we interact with what we have, and give the dog so much satisfaction in that interaction, then we're doing the right thing. Yeah. So I was super happy to see that. We have some questions. Oh my God. Mary Brown says, just learned another concept. Inside voices, my niece's children can drive me nuts with their running and screaming. Now, to diplomatically get their parents to teach that, ways to happen good dog training to good children training. Thank you.
I hear two-ball helps.
And Amy said, I will see if I can find the study from the University of Illinois. They did a study on how long dogs could go without food. They lasted 120 days and called off the study due to ethical reasons, but the dogs did absolutely fine with going with no food for 120 days. He actually might be able to find a study on your own, though. Rodney Hub's site on Facebook. I do still struggle with making my dogs fast and cooking food that is full of yummy smells myself. I try to make it. So, and let me see. Okay, guys, again, wrong person. Again, thank you so much for being here. For everybody online, thank you for participating. I love doing these lectures. I think, increasing our knowledge is more important than interacting with the dog itself, because 80% of the changes are with the human and not with the dogs. So that's why, in my philosophy, it's better to sit in a classroom and listen to a lecture than actually go work with a dog, because if we don't understand what we're doing and how we should do it, we're not giving our dogs, we're not doing our dogs any favor. So again, thank you for watching. This video will be live in our members only section in a couple days. For people that joined us on Facebook, thank you very much. If you do have any questions, just post them under the video and I will be happy to answer them. And then I think next week we have another lecture. So tune in for that. And for now, thank you very much and see you next time. Bye-bye. Yeah, just make sure it's posts live.